on, everyone? So today I want to share a video with you on watering. I had a lot of requests after my how to build a food forest video on how to set up your watering system properly. I do things a little different. I've never seen anyone do it the way I do it, and I just want to share it with you. So hopefully you like it. If you do, don't forget to subscribe. Alright, so most of you, your main water will come up from the street up into a main valve, which then goes into your house. A lot of you will get a tee off of that to go into a watering system that'll go into your valve box, and that's what's going on for my original watering system that still has part of it set up for my grass. What you're going to normally think on a traditional scale is seeing a box like, let me get the camera there, seeing a box like this that you open up and you've got several regular valves there. So these valves control, one of them controls the sprinklers for my front yard, and two of them go to the sprinklers for my backyard for my grass. But I also use them a little bit for my plants too, which I'll show you when I get back there. So now for the good part. All right, so this is my backyard. I have an example of my old system, which I still use in my really tropical area, just because I've been lazy and haven't set it up. But I use one of these Orbit single timers that just hooks straight to your hose bib. It actually works really well. Just be careful, because if you put too much weight, you'll actually bend this copper tubing, which will cause you a lot of extra hassle and work. Had to replace that once. But if you look behind, right here, I actually have a spigot coming out. This spigot is actually is my autofill for my pool, and it's a 3/4 inch pipe, and it has the filtered water coming in because we wanted the backyard to be able to have that, one for the plants, but two, we wanted it so that we didn't put all the hard water into our pool, actually making chlorinating a little bit easier and a little bit more affordable. And so that pipe was already here, which made my life a little bit easier, because I was able to dig down to that pipe, put a T on it, and then put that pipe all the way to the back of my property, and then I was able to hook up my valves back there based off that pipe. So I'll show you that in just a second. Alright, so PVC and our summer really don't mix. This is my old valve bank that I'm going to be showing you guys just as a demonstration. So I lost several trees this year because the PVC had rotted and made the pipe brittle and caused leaks, and then it was non-stop watering. So you can see this system's pretty all over the place, so my 2.0 is a little bit better. And you'll notice here I had a bunch of leaks, and so I've got that water seal from JB Weld, and it does work, but it's definitely not as strong as I had hoped it would be. So a solution for that is I got some of that wet seal spray, and I sprayed that all over my pipes. It's supposed to be 100% UV protection, and any pipe that might be somewhat exposed is going to be sprayed with that, and then I'm going to be putting mulch on top of that as well. So it's important that with these valves that you make sure that you're giving it that UV protection, otherwise they're just going to get brittle and they're going to break and they're going to kill your plants and they're going to make your life miserable. So that goes with that. Alright, so this is my new current system. As you can see, I've got a cement mixer bucket on top of it just because I want that extra protection from the UV. However, I have painted it with that coating that I had mentioned, so it's really important that you do that. And then I'm giving it this extra protection. I'll probably put mulch around this to make it look nicer. This is all somewhat new, but it's a good opportunity for me to show you guys. So this is my valve setup. I'm now running with, let's see if I can get a better angle at it. There we go. 3 valves. So these control the side yard valves, and this one controls the deciduous zone that I have. This pipe right here actually goes to a hose bib that I set up next to my chicken coop so that I don't have to bring a hose all the way across if I I want that so I have a hose on the other side of my property. So the wiring, nothing special there. I had to buy a long set of wire, about 50 feet of wire, to pull it over here so that I could hook the valves up here. I wanted them here. I wanted them out of the foot traffic area. Where I have the pipe coming out of the ground is a pretty high foot traffic area, so I didn't want an obstacle. Back in this corner, I've got nothing growing on, so I wanted to just use this area for that. So highly recommend that. And I also put in these on-off valves, which make it a lot more user-friendly. If one valve breaks, you can turn that one valve off, and then you don't have to worry about all the other valves not going until you have time to repair it, which was a big struggle for me in the past. So that is my valve system, and woo, this is my puppy. Hi. So hopefully that makes sense. If you guys have any questions about that, please put it in the comments. I'd be glad to help give anybody advice on this. And I know it could look prettier, but that's not what I'm going for. Alright, so the reason why I do my watering the way I do is because I want to water the entire area. This is how I'm able to water 100 fruit trees. It's not because I have an individual drip line that I have hooked up to every plant, although I still have a few of those remaining. What I'm doing is I'm watering the entire area around my yard. Now, on top of the filter system, you can hook up just the regular inline filters, which I've got one on order, but I don't have it currently hooked up. I've used them in the past. They last for quite a while, like about 6 months, if you put one on each of the valves instead of all of the valves. And they'll really do a good job of filtering your extra hard water that maybe doesn't get through your system, but I don't really need that anymore with the RO system. That's something you want to do maybe if you don't want to spend the big bucks. So because I'm able to water the entire area, all of the soil gets moist, so all of the soil is able to break down and bring in life. My wood chips break down really, really fast because of this. The only thing that if I were to redo it is I would get extensions and I would have all of these pipes go above the canopy layer just so that it would truly simulate rain. It wouldn't get on the trunks. I do have the trunks kind of painted with Ivy Organics paint. It's more protected from the sun, but it also protects a little bit from the water. Alright, so now the part that you guys are most interested in is how I'm watering. So what I do is I have a Scott's Grow Connect, and I have 3 zones on this phone because I only have 3 valves currently hooked to it. So you can set it up to do basically whatever you want as far as the time that it waters, how many days a week, how often and when the water comes on, how long you want it to run on each of its increments. It's pretty cool. You probably can't see it very well. I'm trying to make it good without the reflection here. So if you want to just water it just as a demonstration, I'll show you. I'll go to zone 2 like I did earlier. Put it on for a minute, set, and then I will hit the play button. It's gonna think. And then, voila. So you guys see, it creates a rain around my plants in this zone, which is pretty cool. Really gives it a chance to simulate what happens in nature, and it really saturates the ground if you leave it on for a period of time, and that breaks down everything that is on my ground. You can barely even tell I've had 4 semi trucks worth of wood chips in this backyard just because everything breaks down so fast. That's pretty cool. And then you can, just as easy as it was to start it, you can hit stop and it stops. At least it should. That actually took a lot longer than it normally does to stop. Usually it's pretty instantaneous. I must have a poor connection with my Wi-Fi. So I'm going to talk about the sprinkler heads that I'm using for this. So real quick, we'll come over here. Alright, so this is one of the sprinkler heads that I've used, and you can see it's got a brass top and it's just spraying this way and up. It's not spraying in all directions because I kind of want to keep control over where my water's spraying. Now, before we moved into this house, the walls were all painted with a like a weatherproof seal, and so I'm not worried about the center block wall damage. If that's something you're worried about, then you might want to paint your walls, but it's not 100% necessary. So if you were to set up a system like this, one of your concerns might be that it's going to spray on your leaves are going to dry out. That might be counterproductive. Even without using a filter, because I did that for the first almost 2 years, I didn't notice any issues whatsoever with that. The leaves seemed healthier. It's kind of a give and take because we're so dry and dusty here that the leaves would have normally been covered with like a dust, and so when our water hits it, although there might be a little bit of calcium and hard water in there, I think it's kind of a trade-off knocking the dust off. I think this is a really good method of doing it. I haven't noticed any like drying out of the plants. They all seem really healthy when watering this way, so that's why I'm sticking with it. I'm not saying it's the only way. It may even seem crazy to some people, but that's how I do it. One other trick I want to show you. All right, so this is kind of a crazy thing that I've learned with this system. It's foliar feeding the same way that I water, and so how I do it, it's pretty simple. I'll just simply unscrew the head, and then I'll take whatever I'm using for a foliar feed. So in this case, I'm just using fish emulsion. And it's really stinky, so everyone's gonna love me today. It's been a minute since this one's been open. Yay, I got it all over my fingers. And I'll pour it in. This isn't the best bottle to do it, but I'm just doing it to kind of give you guys the idea of what I'm doing. It might seem like I'm not, I'm putting a ton in. It's coming out really slow. And then I'll put this sucker back on. Make sure my orientation's in the right direction, and then we'll come back. All right, so then I'll just go back into my app. I already set it for a minute. Hit play. I really don't want this water to get on me. But then it'll do exactly what you saw before. Maybe, as soon as the Wi-Fi kicks in and turns on. And almost instantly, you can smell the wonderful fish emulsion. And it's not just getting on my plants and on the leaves, which is what I'm trying to do with foliar feeding, but it's also getting on the soil. So adding food for the microorganisms and everything else that'll get there. So generally I don't have this come on very long. I just a short interval so that it sprays it, and then the foliar feed can stay on the plants and not just go on and wash right off. So I usually set it for a minute and then turn it off after about 30 seconds. Alright, so when watering, especially in the desert Southwest, we want to make sure that we're not overwatering, and we definitely want to make sure that we're not underwatering. So every plant has a different water requirement, but overall, a safe way to do it is just make sure your soil doesn't completely dry out. One thing that I've done just with a lot of wood chips, you can see this soil is pretty cool. I don't pick up any leaves. I mean, shoot, a jujubee's getting eaten alive right now by something. I've got a pomegranate that I'll leave down here to decompose. that fell off the tree. But you don't want your soil to dry. So generally what I do is I have a deep watering once a week where I have this watering system come on for at least an hour, if not more. And then I have small little interval waters that come on for like a couple minutes, like 1 or 2 minutes, like twice a day. Now you can do that with a digital watering system. You can't really do that with a manual water system or the old style analog watering system. That just gives it an extra benefit so that it's never going to completely dry out, which is what my goal is. Now, if you do water too much, like I've done in the past, you can get root rot. In the winter, that's way more common. In the summer, it is so incredibly hot here that the likelihood of you getting root rot is still pretty low. It really depends on how well your soil drains. If you're starting out, then your soil may not drain very well, and I wouldn't recommend watering it like 30 minutes a day, 3 times a day, or you're gonna get root rot like I used to with my mango trees. So make sure that you keep your watering like a consistent amount of time. So during the summer, it's probably once a week. Maybe if we're over 110 degrees, I'll do twice a week, just because I really don't want it to dry out. That will raise your water bill a lot, but it will save your trees. If you're noticing that in between your watering that it's still really damp, then you can adjust. And it's not a science. It is a science, but it's not a guaranteed thing. Like you can't go, okay, November 25th, I need to water this frequency. No, it just depends on the weather. I mean, this has been a very hot fall for us. October was exceptionally warm. November was exceptionally warm. Who knows what December is going to be like? I still have Barbados cherries growing on my tree, which is nuts. So you never know what our weather's going to be like. So you have to watch your garden and watch your soil and adjust your watering accordingly. I know that might not be the answer a lot of people want. They want to just set it and then never think about it, but that's not what you're going to do if you want to be successful. You could probably get okay results just setting it and forgetting it. You know, I know my parents did that growing up. That was the style I grew up with, especially with our citrus trees, just, you know, whatever. But that's what I do. And that's similar to what people do with flood irrigation. They get a deep flood like every 2 weeks, and that like saturates the ground. So you're kind of mimicking what flood irrigation is. So yeah, so hopefully this was informative and educational for you and you learned something. I don't mind learning new things either, so if you got any tips on things I might not be doing right, just put it in the comments and I'll give you my feedback and maybe even try a few things. So like and subscribe, we really appreciate it. Thanks. Bye.